Greetings, Internet friends. Welcome to another episode of the Synergy Cafe online show, featuring speaker, entertainer, close-up illusionist, and marketing alchemist, Magic Brad. It's the Internet lifestyle show about career, finance, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. We're moving the online chatter over to real-life activity. And now, please welcome your host of Synergy Cafe, Magic Brad.
Hey Internet friends, it's Magic Brad here, Synergy Cafe and the Synergy Collaborative, and we're back again with another interview. And I've got my friend, do you go by Bob or Robert?
Bob.
Let's do Bob.
Let's do Bob.
Perfect. Yes. I'll tell you a quick story. This was Bob Newhart, the old Bob Newhart show. Mm-hmm. They were at a Mensa convention and everybody was spelling their names backwards. And he comes in, so how do you spell your name? He goes, Bob. With his dry sense of humor, you know. Bob, 3-letter word. I got mine, Brad, 4-letter word.
There you go.
So Bob,
much easier.
Here's how I do these interviews. I do them kind of fast and condensed, and we just find out who you are, what do you do, where do you do it, when do you do it, how do you do it, and then why, the big why. So here's the first question: who are you? You got kids? You married? What? Who are you?
Yeah. So my kids are grown, and you know I was like the marriage thing. Right now, my marriage is what I do in terms of my business.
And your work.
Yeah. I have a son who's a Kern County firefighter. He's been doing that for like 20 years, and he's enjoying it. He does wildland fires and
20
everything.
Years? How old are you?
65.
Get out of here. Okay.
And still, so
wow.
what I teach a lot of people is, even regarding fitness, it starts with a mindset and a belief. Because if you start like saying, well, I'm this age and then I can't do anything anymore, then you're not. Exactly. It's all about keeping yourself mentally and physically strong and keep going at it. It's having that kind of mindset.
Let's get right into that. What is it that you do? That's a good segue into what you do.
Sure. So what I do is I help to transform people both mentally and physically in becoming their best selves. And in whatever endeavor that is, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, or any kind of performance, to becoming their best self. And I do it to my own self.
Sure.
Not only do I teach people how to do it, I have to constantly do it myself and challenge myself to that next level. So like for the last almost 6 years, I've been doing parkour. If you ever watch those YouTube videos of these young kids, like going over obstacles and off buildings and all that kind of stuff. Have you seen that?
I was just going to say, what is it called?
It's called parkour, Parkour. And
new term.
Yeah, so it's a new term for you, young people in their like teens and 20s. So I train with them, and a lot of them have gone on and done excellent in the American Ninja Warrior. And you may have seen that.
I have. I can imagine, because they're doing all that jumping and stuff. And you got to think, like chess, you got to think about your next move because it's coming up. And when you're zipping through all that stuff, you got to.
One of the things in parkour is focus. You actually have to stay focused and be in a state of flow, which is key in success in just about every endeavor. And I see people that are unfocused. When they're unfocused, and even though they say they have a goal, when they're not focused, they're gonna like meander off and do all these other kind of things.
I ran into that exact same thing. There's a friend of mine, Patrick Wiesman, that does breath work and yoga, and we went to Bali and we were mountain biking down this narrow path. On one side is the rice paddy, the other side is a 30-foot drop. And we're going down this hill. He's going like crazy because he's really into like karma. When it's my time, and there's nothing I can do about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like zipping down there, and I'm focused, and then I lost my concentration. I had a little doubt, and sure enough, I fell. Luckily in the rice paddy, not the 30-foot drop. Yeah. Got back up, same thing, get in that zone, focused, and then all of a sudden I lost a little mindset, and boom, I fell again. Just like that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and now that you bring that up, because a lot of people say, Bob, you're an adrenaline junkie. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. Yet I can jump out of planes, and I've done halo jumps, and I do a lot of this extreme stuff. That's not adrenaline. Because here's the thing: what is adrenaline? It's a stress hormone. I mean, because when you're in a fight or flight, adrenaline keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Yes, it keeps you alert in some things, yet it's a fear-based mechanism. And when you're focused and like your friend, and if you see a lot of extreme athletes where people think they're adrenaline junkies, they're not. They're actually what you said. They're in a state of flow.
In the zone.
They have to stay in that zone, because adrenaline is just the opposite of what they need. They have to stay absolutely focused and just keep moving forward. So like whenever I do parkour, and I made a mistake one time because my best friend, Jason Scott Johnson, who's a former Muay Thai super heavyweight world champion, I said, Jason, I'm going to show you what I do in terms of parkour. So I was doing a rail-to-rail jump, and I wasn't focused. So I was talking to Jason as I was attempting to do this. So I was on top of one rail. I jumped, it was about 7 feet, and I was talking. I wasn't focused. I slipped, and I did a face slam into the ground. This is back in 2013. I broke my nose, had my whole face was just swollen because I wasn't focused.
Right.
And that's what life is. When you get unfocused, things like that are going to happen. Like you're falling over on your bike. So it's the same thing.
One of my next questions is like when, and I kind of go into when do you do your work, and like when are you in your optimal? Are you an AM person or a PM person? I wake up and I can do stuff, and then when the sun starts to set, I'm kind of like done. So can you just kind of turn it on whenever, or do you have a specific?
So this is something that was developed even going back to when I was younger. When I first was involved in the martial arts. Now, my mom was my first martial arts teacher when I was 18 months old. She put a stick in my hand and was teaching me kendo. And then from there, I lived in Okinawa for like 3 years. And from age 5 to age 8, I studied Goju, and the discipline, the mental discipline back in those days that I had to have, unlike here in martial arts, is much different.
Right.
And so it taught me a lot in terms of that.
Yeah, I've got a black belt in Taekwondo, and it saved my life in a situation where a car was coming towards me, and I had to make that split-second reaction. I couldn't I couldn't beat it, and I couldn't stop because I would have slipped. It was winter and snowy, so I had to jump up. And I jumped up high enough where the car didn't have a big impact on me, and I'm okay. And the car was going about 40. So if it would have hit me in the hip. So martial arts saved my life. I think that's a really good thing to be able to do that split-second decision making.
Yes. And this carried, like with me, when I went into the Marine Corps, the same thing. Then the early attitude. So right from boot camp and all the way through, and when I was in force recon and everything like that, it's early mornings getting up, 4:30 in the morning. Boom. You had, so it wasn't like getting out then dragging yourself like that, like we typically see. No, it was like being asleep, waking up, boom. Your heart's pumping and you're just automatically into it.
And I must have been in that in a previous life or something, because when I wake up in the morning, I'm up.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I go to sleep at night, I always joke that I'm like one of those dolls, and when you tip it back, the eyeballs just close, Because when I'm out at night, I'm out, and when I wake up, I'm up. I don't drift around like that. So the next question is like, where do you do your work? Do you do online work, or you do like person-to-person coaching? Do you have an office that people come to work with people, or how do you?
Yeah.
How do you do your stuff?
So most of my work is done online or over the phone. Now I do have like in person with some people. Well, I'll go to where they're at instead of coming to my environment. I want to make sure that they're optimal in their environment, because I can see how they do their stuff. And if I bring them to a safe environment, now in therapy, that would be different. I want to bring them to a safe environment instead of that environment where they're stressed. If I'm coaching somebody, then I want to do it in their environment because I want to make sure that what I do is working. I can make immediate adjustments with that person. Yet most of what I do is going to be online or over the phone,
Okay.
which I have clients all over, all over the world.
Well, before I ask, I got two more questions, and then I
Sure.
wanted to, before I ask my favorite question at the end here, but a little bit. Oh, I was going to ask, are you maybe open to? Because I'm working on some projects where with retreats. Would you be open to like doing some kind of like retreat workshop or something in Costa Rica or Tulum, Mexico, or something like that?
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. It's funny that you mentioned, especially mentioning Costa Rica.
Really?
Yes, because that is on my short-term radar of having an event down there.
Really? I've got a guy that I was going to meet with him today. He just went down there to clean some things up in Costa Rica, and he's going to be coming back. And we're looking at building a wellness center in there, and I've got some other real cool ideas for investors to be able to realize their investment like every week instead of an annual dividend kind of thing. So, and then looking at doing these retreats. So I got some really cool ideas and things for what we're doing down there. And I think Costa Rica is cool. You know, it's they don't have an army and they're 90% water sustainable energy.
Yeah.
It's a very cool space.
Yeah, I have a very good friend who has a real estate company down there in Costa Rica.
We need to talk some more.
We do. Yes. He was a producer on gosh, what was that? It was a real estate. I'll have to think about it later.
Like some kind of house flipping show or something.
It was something like that. House Hunters International.
Okay.
So yes, he was a producer on that for a number of years, and his partner was a host on the show.
Okay. Well, speaking of like, because you're out in like the LA area, right?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. Just wanted to let people know that's kind of where you are, and that makes total sense how that would happen. So if you could give us a little bit of a rundown of how you do your programs and such, and then I want to ask my favorite question.
Okay. So what I typically will do, focus on my coaching. So my coaching is that I will take a person through a whole process. Usually it's going to be a year long. So I charge it's a program. It's not per session. It's a program that I would take them to where they're at. So I would work with them right at the beginning to see where the baseline is at and the results that they want to get. And so I have them to see that this is an island that they want to get to. And I have a step-by-step, almost like pillars building across that will reach all the way to the island.
Got it.
And each person, even though there's a standardized procedure, I also customize it for each one of my clients because I know that nobody is the same. Everybody starts at a different baseline.
Yep, and also their goal might change. I mean, I used to be very against setting goals because I didn't want to commit myself to something I might not be doing in the future. And I worked with a guy in Asheville, North Carolina, and he let me know that you can move your goal. If you have to move your goal, you can move your goal.
So one of the things that I talk about is figuring out the person's mission. Mm-hmm. The goal can change. The mission is still going to be there.
That comes to my last question. Dun, dun, dun. This is the big question, and it's the why question.
The why question.
The big why question is, why is it that Bob does what he does, as opposed to why aren't you like a martial arts instructor, or maybe why aren't you like a golf instructor, or why don't you start a restaurant? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so years ago, and I'm going to really even expand on this, because when I was a kid, I always wanted to be Superman. I think a lot of kids do. I really did. I thought I could. I put on a towel as a cape and I messed up my mom's towel, put an S on the back, and I tried to like fly like Superman. Well, that didn't work. It didn't work at all.
I tried it too. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Gravity sucks.
And physically, I could do a lot of stuff. Emotionally, because what I didn't say was that I've been a stutterer, a lifelong stutterer. And that was a really big challenge for me in terms of development. Now, I could go out as Superman and save a lot of people. And then I think when I went into the Marines, it was along the same lines. I wanted to be the strong guy to go out and rescue. When I was after the Marines, I was with the LAPD, and it was the same thing. Martial arts, being a bodyguard, all that kind of stuff was the same thing. And it wasn't until I was teaching self-defense, and it was at that point in time where I realized it wasn't about me trying to rescue people and trying to be that hero. It's about teaching each person for themselves to grow. And I took like my lessons in the martial arts and then compounded on that. Yes, I have my businesses and everything, yet I really wanted to learn more on how I could help people help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then it went even beyond that. So you remember the adage that if you give a man a fish, you
Yep.
feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for life. And I really want to even go beyond that. And this is still part of the same process. So if I teach a man how to teach others how to fish, then you can feed the whole world.
Sure, you get the exponential growth, the compounding.
The exponential growth.
Very cool.
And that's where I'm at. I wanted to teach people how to help themselves, and then them going out and do that same thing so they could become the best possible selves in whatever they do and continue on terms of their mission. So that's my mission.
Well, that's good to hear. Most of the people that I talk to on these interviews is they want to help other people. So we'll get this done.
Yes,
well,
we
there's
will.
some other things we're going to talk about. If you want to hang on after I close
Sure.
this one off and then I propagate it out to the universe, we can talk about some martial arts stuff. You probably know Lou Casamassa and some of the other martial arts out there. What is it, Benny Urquidez? And
Benny Urquidez is a friend of mine.
see, all those people. We'll talk about those peeps soon. So appreciate you, Bob, taking the time. And I will, if you will send me some links, I'll put those on all the posts and things and put that out. And if anybody's interested in your coaching and all that stuff, what do they call that stuff where you jump on the bars and fly or core or something?
Parkour.
Parkour. Is that like par for the course?
Pretty much.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you taking the time, and thanks everybody for watching. And be well. Enjoy your world.